We're about to get started. Thank you so much. If everyone could take their seats, I hope you got a glass of wine or water, whatever makes you happy. Good. I am so pleased to be here. I want to thank ICA for hosting these events. It's a true honor for Food Tank, the organization I work with, to be partnering with ICA. My name is Danielle Nierenberg. I am president and co-founder of Food Tank with my co-founder Bernie Pollock. We are a research and advocacy organization really devoted to highlighting stories of hope and success in food and agriculture systems around the globe. And I, am inspired by a lot of people. And one of them is sitting right here. And I'm so delighted to sit down with Krysta Harden, the president and CEO of the U.S. Dairy Export Council and the former Deputy Secretary of the United States Department of Agriculture. Please give her a warm round of applause, everyone. Bigger. Thank you. This woman's a heroine. And so, Margaret, don't worry, I'm going off script a little. I already warned Deputy Secretary. The last time I saw you speak was at a Kamala Harris fundraiser, and it was full of energy and hope. And now that we're sort of in a different place, I would love to hear from you as a woman who's been in agriculture and thinks about these issues so deeply. What gives you hope right now?
Boy, that's a good question, and I'm sorry I didn't see you talk to you that night, but it was a night of hope and a night of fun and excitement. The reality set in that elections are over and the American people have spoken. And I have hope because I still believe in our country.
Yeah.
And I believe that no matter what is thrown at us, we can endure and we can learn and we can improve and we can grow. And there's life beyond.
Absolutely.
Things didn't go my way. They didn't. I'm the first to admit that. But I do have hope for the future for American agriculture and specifically for dairy. I'm new to dairy, so I have learned a lot about it. And as I look outward, I know that we're going to be okay. It may be tougher than I would have liked. There's going to be some challenges for sure, but and I know this is a long answer, but I also have hope for our young women in agriculture. I'm going to talk about women. That is at my heart and my soul. There are more and more women in agriculture. There are more young women wanting to go into agriculture. I think they're going to make the difference for our industry, not just in the U.S., but around the world. So when I look outward and I look back at my legacy, I hope it is about the women in agriculture.
Oh, yes, it definitely will be. Thank you for all that you've done. And I will say on this issue of hope, shortly after I heard you speak, I was at an event where Al Gore spoke, and he reminded us all in the room that political will is a renewable resource. So I think that's something to keep in mind as we go through the next 4 years or the next 40 years. So I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about your work with the U.S. Dairy Export Council and what you're doing around methane emissions. I know it's such a huge issue and it's so pertinent to what we're here at COP4.
Most definitely, and a couple of things I'm really proud of our industry is they own the issues that they know they need improvement with. This is a journey. They will admit that. They know that enteric emissions are an issue that the world is watching, but they're watching too. They care as well. They're investing in research. They're investing in new science. They're looking for ways to make a difference. There are feed additives that have finally been approved in the U.S. Thank goodness. Some of our competitors had it before us. They're not really price affordable yet, I would say. I hope it gets that way.
Sure.
But I think there continues to be a lot of investment in looking at how we're going to deal with methane. We're not sticking our heads in the sand. We're not saying this is going to go away or that we can't address that. It's just how. And something you'll hear me say today and you hear me say anytime is the burden cannot be just on farmers.
Right.
We need partners. We need investment, whether that's government and private sector. It needs to be both. But the farmers themselves recognize that this is a challenge. Let's make it an opportunity.
Krysta, I think that's such an important point that we cannot continue to blame farmers. They have been demonized, often dairy farmers especially, but there's so much opportunity in the dairy sector right now. Can you talk about those opportunities for young women?
Well, one of the reasons I was kind of attracted to dairy, and I'll have to admit, and I'll say the Secretary of Vilsack, was part of that. He had the job before I had it, and he is the one who said, come join me in dairy and help lead the environmental strategy, setting the goals, which you don't say no to him much, and you don't say it more than once. And the last time he said, this is the last time I'm asking, I said, okay, I'm coming. So part of it was just his leadership and wanting to work with him again, but it was also the women who lead the U.S. Dairy. Marilyn Hershey, who's coming in tomorrow, the chair of DMI. My vice chair is a farmer from California, Becky Neiman, who came and is farming with her brother back in California. I look at the Dairy Girl Network, which is young women involved in dairy. More and more family farms are led by women and women-only dairies as well. So I just see them really taking up the mantle, owning the issues, finding the way to have life balance, and being on the farm making business decisions as well as in the parlor and on the farm as well. I think dairy leads the way in American agriculture, having women's voices, not just at the table, but leading the conversation, which I'm so proud of. And another reason I'm very, very excited to be associated with this industry.
Absolutely. They're not just farmers' wives. They are the business leaders and the farmers and the entrepreneurs leading these dairy businesses. As you sort of, watch the dairy industry and watch the changes, what are you most excited about sort of on the regenerative path that dairy farmers are taking?
I see them really making investment in things like soil health. That's something they realize that is at the heart of their operations. I'm the daughter of farmers, but peanut farmers in Georgia. And we've also always known that it starts really with your soil, good healthy soil. I see farmers, using cover crops, adding nutrients back, biodiversity on their farms, protecting their waterways with buffers and others. They're just very, very committed to soil health. That's very exciting to me to see that commitment to that. But also just in every aspect of their operations, they're really committed to be better stewards. They recognize they have a very healthy, nutritious product that they're extremely proud of, but they know it cannot, come at the sacrifice of the environment. So they're looking at how to be good for people and good for planet. It has to be both. And I think more and more of them realize that. They're making the investments and they're making the commitments.
I wonder, for years we didn't hear about soil health as a solution to so many things, whether it was the climate crisis or making farmers have more economically stable operations. How do you think this came about, this sort of interest and momentum around soil health?
It's almost a reawakening. The first time I was CEO was of the National Association of Conservation Districts. I was the first female there to be their CEO, and they were 8 years old. And that organization had sprung out of the Dust Bowl when we watched our topsoil blow away. I wasn't around then. I admit that. I've been around a while, but not that long. But the story is that, the Soil Conservation Service was created when the dust blew into Washington from the Midwest because there was no topsoil. So we invested in conservation and preserving topsoil and soil health, but then we kind of took it for granted for a while. And I think we've come back maybe to our roots. To realize that there is a way and a place to help the environment, to help with climate change, and often it does begin with the land.
It does. It has to start there. One important thing that I've learned from you and former Deputy Secretary Kathleen Merrigan is the importance of collaboration. And maybe women are better at this, maybe they're not. I don't want to assign gender roles to people, but I feel like you've been very collaborative throughout your career. Kathleen, of course, has had the same opportunity to do that. Why are partnerships so important with this work?
I'll start with the women's side of it, and you're right, I don't want to generalize either, but I think women are networkers, just by nature. I think about, if I need a new dress for a party or a dentist or I get a new haircut, I call my girlfriends, right, or my sister or my mother, depending on what the issue is. I think we talk to each other, we work together, we collaborate. A lot of times it's with parenting, I'll pick up your kids this week if you'll do it next week. So I think it is kind of in our human nature, but also recognize that we cannot find these solutions by ourselves. We have got to collaborate. What I hope we do better of is having partners that we're not just comfortable with. I'm as guilty as anybody as seeking out the people who talk like me with maybe a Southern accent or understand agriculture like I do, or come from a rural area instead of an urban. I think we have to get more comfortable and reach out to others. That's when collaboration really makes a difference, when it is scary or it
Right.
tests us. And I think we are doing a better job of that, but not quite good enough.
It's what I like to call uncomfortable conversations.
Yes.
The ones that make you feel a little bit like, oh, I don't want to be here right now, but I have to be here right now. Has there been an experience like that for you where you're like, oh, I get it now. I feel like I can change my mind about this issue?
It's very interesting. A couple of times, and one that reminds me when I worked in the biotech industry, in France with a group of folks who really hated my company. They hated the farmers that we sold seed to and products to. And I said from the get-go, I am here to listen with a capital L, and that is to learn. And I think that is something we have to do so quickly. As you're listening to someone, it's like, I got you on that, you're wrong, I'm right. And you want to almost, interrupt them.
Right.
And that's not good. And I catch myself that, even here, I'll be honest with you.
Sure.
Kelly, my colleague, and I sat down with some folks in the cafeteria and said, can we use your 2 chairs? The room is full. Can we sit and talk to you? And what do you do? And what do you do? And they're with an NGO. And they never tell you what NGO, so I'm not quite sure. But I know it was not with agriculture. And so we sat there and listened to them, and I really made myself pay attention instead of just sitting on my phone or, looking away or thinking something differently, to see why they're here and what they're doing here.
Right.
Because it's very important. And then they gave the same courtesy to us. So I felt like we had almost a little exchange, and we agreed to maybe, talk later. But it takes that effort.
Yep.
It takes being willing to say, we don't agree on everything.
Right. And that's okay.
And it's okay. You may be right somewhere in the middle.
Right, absolutely. I just finished moderating a UNFCCC panel about finance, but we got into very deep things, and one of them was this idea of deep listening, the idea of building relationships, of having, the sort of common sense that relationships aren't just between people, they're between the land and biodiversity and organizations and others. I'm wondering what your experience of sort of that deep listening, you talked a little bit about it before, but we all have to have those relationships in place to really make the change that we want to see.
Well, I think if you leave this meeting and all you've done is talk to your friends and had a good time and a few good meals and heard, then why waste your plane ticket?
Right.
In your time here? And I think that it is going to venues where you may be the only person in the room that doesn't agree, stopping and listening to the protesters to see what they're really protesting and why. Those are the kinds of things that I'm trying to make myself do more of. It's easy to get complacent. It's easy to get comfortable in where you are and thinking, I'm here to convince someone that my industry is best and we have all the answers and we're doing everything great. And I know we're not. I know that we have to. So I think part of it's a mindset, it's an attitude. For me, it's almost being mature enough, grown up enough, comfortable in myself and in my job to say, I don't know everything.
Right.
I really do need to learn about something and keep pushing myself to learn, to challenge myself, go where I'm comfortable, go where I'm scared a little bit.
Right.
But, that it takes courage, it takes boldness, and it takes, kind of the ability to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, you do have to be very brave, and I admire that very much about you. One of the things that I've learned, at previous COPs is it's okay to change your mind, right? You come in with your own sort of viewpoint on something, and you hear something that inspires you or motivates you, and it's okay to change your mind, and that can be a powerful example of sort of leadership. I'm wondering your thoughts.
I think you're right. I will remind myself often you can only lead as long as people follow you. So I have to be very careful to make sure my own personal feelings and opinions, and no matter what the issue is also can be aligned in a way to motivate the folks that I work for and work with and then collaborate with is also. So I think learning, being open to learning is very, very key, but then also how do you share that with others?
Right.
Because I can't get too far out from where the people I work for, who are hardworking care so deeply and expect me to represent their interest as
Right.
well. So it's a balance.
Right.
And then finding the nuggets, sometimes they're just nuggets of how we're going to improve and how we're going to change.
Right.
And then helping others to come along with you.
Well,
So work in process, I'll tell you.
well, and those nuggets add up, and they turn into something often. Can you talk about how, how you sort of interact with dairy farmers and what that looks like, and what the feelings you get when you're talking to farmers?
Well, I love them. I think it's being a daughter of a farmer. That's who I would rather talk to all day long, any day.
Same.
You know, I mean that's who I can relate to. I understand their trials. I understand their challenges, but I understand their passion and commitment. Nobody is farming today, probably ever, just because it's the best job in the world.
Right. Right.
They're farming because they love it, they care, they have a passion, they want to nourish people, they want to do what's right, they care about their land, they care about their community. That's what is so motivating to me. I love farmers. I talk to them every day, and I have to talk to my business members too, so I have to be careful there. But if I'm going to spend time with a group of people to listen and to learn and to really share, it is our farmers. And more, again, it's the women farmers,
Right.
So I want to be there for them as well. But farmers are business people. They're practical. They work hard. They care about the very basics. It's something I identify with. Coming from a family of farmers on both sides, my parents
Wow.
grew up on family farms. Everybody did it. I was kind of the first generation to say, can't make a living doing it, especially as a female back in the day. So I think that we should listen to farmers more, and that's one thing that I think is very critical for meetings like this.
Right.
Farmer voices have to be at the table. They have to be part of the dialogue, not talked around or about,
Right.
but helping to make the decisions.
I've heard a lot of that today, especially making COP more farmer-centric. And it baffles me that we haven't had many of those voices here in the past. But as food and agriculture becomes more evident as a solution to the climate crisis, how can we make sure that those voices are included here at COP and other international discussions?
We have to insist upon it. I mean, I think we just have to insist, and I think the U.S. can lead that. And so we're going to lead, a farmer forum. We're going to have farmers' voices heard. We are going to continue to bring farmers. USDA should not be here if we don't have farmers here. We will not. As long as I'm CEO, I can pledge to that. I think we have to be intentional. It has to be deliberate. It can't be, well, we hope they come, or maybe some will, and we need them from across the globe. We need all types of farmers, all sizes of farmers. We need those who can really, learn from each other. I think that's important. They can share. We have a partnership. We just joined the World Farmers Organization.
Right.
I'm so pleased to be able to have them as an ally, to work with them on a number of issues. We will seek out other organizations to do that as well, and make sure their voices are here.
That's so important. Going back to the issue of women, there was a farmer on this stage today who talked about that he was handing off to the next generation, but his granddaughter.
I love it.
And it gives me chills now thinking about it, because so proud of her, and it skipped his children, but she's taking it on. What lessons do young women farmers sort of need to have in their back pocket, especially in dairy farming?
I think, first of all, that most of them could probably teach me about it, because they're the ones who often grew up in it or have made this choice to say, I'm going to make these sacrifices, I'm going to make these commitments. I'd say first it is a business. My daddy taught me about our farm early on. I'm the oldest child. I only have one sister. He said, it may be a family business, but never forget it is a business. This is how we pay our bills.
Right.
It is a passion. I love it. I want to do it. My mother said the same thing. But it is a business, and so go in it with that attitude. Go in it knowing that you're going to make a living, support your family, and I think that is something very, very critical. But also I would say to women, and it's harder because they often are balancing families and other obligations, is we need your voice and leadership.
Right.
Carve out that time. Maybe only it's one organization or one thing you can do for a certain period of your life, but we need your voice so desperately to help make decisions. Women are wonderful jugglers. I think they know how to multitask. We have to help them and support them, make sure that their voices are heard and that they're not alone. so many. I started a mentoring group when I was at USDA, of just helping women across the country find someone like them.
Right.
That they could set up. Sometimes they would admit to me, we're on the phone at midnight when our kids have finished
Right.
homework and gone to bed.
Right.
But I need somebody to talk to that understands what I'm going through. So they have to know they're not alone, that we have their back, and we want them, in leadership roles.
For sure. And I think you explained it so well. Women are great multitaskers, and farming is all about multitasking. It's a business. You have to steward the land. You have to, communicate to others. It's so many things, and women are so good at that. Going back to the U.S. Dairy Export Council, as we go into this new administration in January, how do you hope that the next leader of USDA will engage with the work that you're doing, and also things like COP?
Well, I think that the current administration and past as well has made good investments in giving farmers programs with incentives to deal with climate challenges. I hope those will continue.
Sure.
Climate smart agriculture, I think, has been wonderful. I think $800 and something million have been invested, in dairy projects only, and there's dollars, surrounding the whole agriculture sector. So I hope those kind of programs, those incentives, be able to help farmers find answers, find solutions on the land, and not doing it alone. They cannot do it alone. We have to partner with them. So I look forward to that. Obviously, for trade, we're an export organization, so looking at trade is a way to actually help the rest of the world as well nourish. It is, a vital part of one element of it, but it is a part
Sure.
of nourishing a world, and being part of that, being proactive. Seeing our role as a leader in agriculture. I hope we don't lose that.
Sure.
So there's a lot of opportunity. Maybe there will be new programs that I can't even imagine. So I hope the new secretary is very creative.
Knock on wood.
And has a lot of good ideas.
I'm wondering what you hope to see as the result of this COP, and what you hope for COP30.
This COP on agriculture, maybe not as much is going to come out of this as we would have hoped coming into it. I know the theme is finance, so that is something that's very critical for farmers as well. How do they finance collectively as well as individually? How do we help them find these solutions? And again, they cannot do it alone. I think we're building towards Brazil and COP30 with a major focus on agriculture and animal agriculture for certain with our Brazilian partners and friends. So I look forward to a very exciting, proactive approach. Again, as you said earlier, not farmers being the bad guys, but part of the solution. How do we find the tools they need, find the resources, help them do that? So I'm really happy we're building towards that for COP30. This has been a great COP. Don't misunderstand me. I think
Sure.
Wonderful host country. Everything's
Absolutely.
Food everywhere, no lines so much. I love that. Even in the restroom, the ladies' room, not a long line. I love it.
Exactly.
But for agriculture at least, I think next year is going to be a really big focus. As we're in the Americas, and in agriculture, major agriculture country, and certainly with animal protein. So the challenges of that I think are going to be front and center.
Absolutely. But I also think that women will be front and center. Indigenous women, young women will be front and center in Brazil, and that will be so exciting for all of us, right?
It certainly will. I would love for us to have almost an all-female delegation from the U.S. I can't promise that, but I'm going to work on it. And I want to tell you just one story. You talked about not just somebody's wife. When I was at USDA, I spoke at a major conference, and there was a standing ovation when I was done, and this man came running up to me, and he said, I saw a lot of people talking to you last night at the the reception, the warm-up reception. He said, I just thought you were somebody's wife. And I had been the keynote speaker at this big conference. And I said, well, I am somebody's wife, but not just somebody's wife.
Right.
And he said, I think I just learned a really important lesson.
Oh, what a wonderful point to end on, Krysta. Thank you so much. I've learned so much from you over the years without you even knowing it. Thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Please give her a round of applause.